What's up everyone? In this video, we're going to be talking about in-camera features of the Lumix GH5 that you need to be using that will help make you a better GH5 filmmaker. We'll talk about the features, where to find them on the GH5, and how to use them. Prepare to become a GH5 features expert. If you're new here, my name is Caleb and I've been doing freelance video production since 2012, but this channel is to help you make your own videos, whether you just started or you've been making them for a while, whether you use the GH5 or any other camera. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and bell so you don't miss when new videos come out. Whether you're an aspiring filmmaker or a professional filmmaker, the GH5 is an awesome tool to be using. It's packed full of features that allow you to get great in-camera footage without having to have a bunch of other filmmaking tools laying around. So let's take a look at some of these GH5 features and why they are so perfect for filmmakers, whether you're making YouTube content, doing client work, or making home movies. Now I'm just gonna show you these features and run some test shots here in my little studio, but really these features on the GH5 can be used anywhere and really in any situation. At some point during this video, make sure you comment your favorite feature of the GH5, even if it's not mentioned in this video. So here's my list of some of the in-camera features of the GH5 that you need to be using. The first feature is obvious, but it's the variable frame rate option of the GH5. The variable frame rate is great because it takes a higher frame rate clip, whether at 60p, 120p, or 180p, with other frame rates sprinkled in there, and processes that clip in camera to give a file for a 24p or 30p timeline, depending on what you're shooting. You lose audio, but the fact that the clip is already processed for slow-mo is a huge time saver when it comes to editing. You don't need to go in and adjust the speed to make sure you got it right. If you're into speed ramping your footage, you can just speed up the transition parts of the clip and the slow-mo is already taken care of. My two favorite frame rates on the GH5 are 60p and 4K and 120p in full HD. So where do you find the variable frame rate option on the GH5? First, you're gonna need to make sure your GH5 is either in 4K 8-bit or full HD 8-bit. And from there, go to the menu and go to the first menu option, and under the first page you'll find variable frame rate. Now when you've hit variable frame rate, you're going to get three options. The first is to turn it on, second is to turn it off, and third is to set the frame rate. Now if our variable frame rate was already on, we'd hit set and it would take us to a bunch of different options. But since the VFR is not on, we're going to turn it on, and then it's going to give us the options, and you can see all of the options right here. And since I'm in full HD, I can go all the way up to 180. But like I said earlier, I personally like 120. Now the IBIS of the GH5 really makes for some steady footage, especially in 120p. The variable frame rate feature of the GH5 is important because it's going to allow you to get creative with some slow-mo, just as long as you're not overusing it. Slow-mo footage doesn't automatically make your video cinematic. Another thing is that with slow-mo clips being processed in camera, it will save you time editing and hopefully allow you to get a video out quicker. Alright, let's talk about the 4K live crop on the GH5. This is a thing of beauty. Basically, 4K live crop processes in-camera slider shots. This is perfect for product or nature B-roll, for example. It allows you to set 2 points on your frame and it will crop in and transition from one point to the other, all in camera, and all you have to do is hit record. So where do you find the 4K live crop? Well, we're gonna go into menu again, and we're gonna go to the first menu option, and we're actually gonna scroll to the second page, and at the bottom of the second page, you'll have 4K live crop. And then what's going to happen is it's going to bring up three different options, and these are the different lengths of the crop. So for example, for this one, we're going to pick 20 seconds. And then on the next screen, you're going to see that it's going to give you two boxes. It's going to give you a starting point, and then after we set the starting point, it's going to give us an ending point. So right here, you can scroll around and you can find anywhere you want on the frame. You can make this box larger or smaller, and that is going to be your starting point. So for this one, we're going to set the starting point right on this vintage lens, and then we're going to set the end point over here just a little bit further, and we're going to get a nice slider effect once we set it, and then hit record. And it's going to give us a slider effect all in camera, and we don't even need to have a slider. So the reason the 4K live crop is important is because it's going to give you some awesome options, slider options right in camera where you don't have to have a slider in your toolbox for when you're filmmaking. So it might save you some cash and it might save you some hassle of using a slider because you're going to be able to get this right in camera. So here's a few other shots that I got using the 4K live crop. All right, next we're going to talk about this top dial and how you can customize these custom options right on the top dial so that you are dialed in with your settings, that you're ready to shoot just by turning this knob on here. Okay, so this is going to be perfect for, let's say you have a studio setting. Maybe you're making a YouTube video and you're in the studio and you always have the lighting the same. Every single shoot that you do, you're sitting at your desk and you're ready to roll. All you need to do is set the custom 1 or custom 2 to whatever settings that you use for that studio shot, and then you'll be dialed in every single time and ready to shoot that studio setting. Another option might be, let's say you always do B-roll in 4K 60, then you can set your knob to C2, and then you're able to have all your settings dialed in for 4K 60. For that B-roll. So let's go in and customize those buttons. And what you're going to want to do is have everything set the way that you want it on your screen first of all. So let's say you're going to want to shoot in 4K 8-bit 24p. You're going to be in the natural color profile and everything on here 400 ISO, 2.8 aperture, and you're at an angle of 180. So everything on this screen, you're going to want the way it is before you customize that button. So once you have all your settings dialed in, what you're going to do is you're going to go into the menu and you're going to go to the second wrench. And here you're going to have online manual, and then the second option is going to be the custom button, which keeps everything in camera, saves all those options in camera, and you're ready to roll for whatever shot that you're going to need. So let's set that custom 1, and you're going to overwrite all the camera settings with that custom button right there. So every time you go to your studio shot, you're going to go to that custom 1 knob and you're going to turn it there, and everything's going to be ready to roll, and you don't need to change a thing on your camera. So the reason this is important is because it's going to allow you to dial in those settings and you're going to be able to save them in camera, so you're always going to get the same looking shot, whether that's white balance, ISO. The only thing that's going to change is if you change your lighting or if you change anything else about your setup, but what you know is that your camera is always going to be ready to roll. Alright, so what I'm going to show you now is focus lock in manual focus. Now this feature is really cool, especially if you're doing your own talking head. You can click the lock button back here while you're in manual focus, or touch the screen and it's going to lock on with autofocus, but you're in manual focus. It's an awesome tool that you definitely should be taking advantage of if you're shooting your own talking head videos. So personally, what I like to do is I like to go into the menu and I'll go to the first wrench and I'll go to the focus area, and then what I'm going to do is set the focus lock. I'm going to set that on, and there might be a couple different ways you can do this, but that's what I like to do. And then what I can do is I could focus on these different points and then I can lock right on to whatever I'm aiming at just with that lock button. Now another option that you could do is you can actually take the screen and take the box and you can go and focus on whatever area on the screen that you need to focus on. So it's a great tool while being in manual focus. You can get that autofocus effect, and then in turn you're able to lock on focus pretty much every single time. Now we all know that the autofocus on the GH5 is not great. The continuous autofocus is not great, but this autofocus lock option is going to save you a ton of time trying to lock in on focus. Now one of the things I've noticed is that it works best with Lumix lenses or Olympus lenses, so micro four third lenses that natively attached to the camera, but it's going to be a great option for you, especially for talking head, your own YouTube content, or if you use it for client work and interviews, you can lock on focus every single time and you know it's going to be in focus. Another in-camera feature of the GH5 that has to do with focus that you're going to want to definitely take advantage of is the focus transition. So what focus transition is going to allow you to do is set different focal points on the screen that you're going to be able to transition seamlessly from, and it's going to lock focus each and every time. So the way this is different than the focus lock is that you have predetermined focus points on the frame. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the menu and we're going to go to the first menu option and we're going to go to the second page, and there you're going to find focus transition. And then here you're going to have a few different options. You're going to be able to set the speed, you're going to be able to set the focus pull points, and then a couple other options if you want the camera to wait a little bit before it hits that next focal point. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in here. I'm going to leave all these the same, and we're going to go in here and we're going to set our focus points. So the first one that we're going to set is going to be right on this lens right here. So we're going to set our focus point there, and that first one is set and we're ready to go. The next one is we're going to focus back on that MacBook back there. So it's going to be a little ways away. And there it is. There's our second one. And then our third is we're going to set it on this lens right here. So we're going to go and find our focus, and there it is, and we've set it. And then what we're going to do is hit start. And then while we record, we can hit these different focus points. So position 1, remember we set on this lens. Position 2, back on the MacBook. And position 3, we set on this lens that's right here. So as we record, let's hit record, and I'll put this up on the screen as well. But as we record, we're going to go from the different positions. So position 1, it's focused right on there, on this lens right here, and then on position 2, it's going to automatically go back to that MacBook. Position 3, it's going to come back into this lens right here. And you can set these positions anywhere on the screen, on the frame. You're going to need to do a reset if you want to change them, but it's going to go in and out of focus and focus on those different points, and it's going to focus pull for you, which is just a beautiful thing, especially with the GH5 and the autofocus not being great. So you can go from position 1 to position 3. No problem, and that's where you can set the speed. So the focus transition is important because it's going to allow you to set those different focal points on the screen, and so it's going to allow you to kind of have like a focus puller. But that's all in camera, and it processes it all in camera, and then you have an awesome clip to work with. So I'm just going to run a couple other tests so you can see some of the transitions that you can get. Now there's a couple honorable mentions that I'd still like to put in this video, some in-camera features that I just think are fantastic, and I've talked about some of these before, but one of them is just all the function buttons that you have on the GH5 and how customizable it is. We already talked about the knob on top, but all of these buttons, all these function buttons like on the back of the camera and on the front of the camera, they're all customizable. So like the 4K live crop that we talked about, you can actually set this dial or set one of these function buttons and set that up as 4K live crop so you don't have to go into the menu and shuffle through it and find what you're looking for. You just have it right on a function button. And also focus transition or the variable frame rate if you want to set that up as a function button. Now I did a whole video on the function buttons that I'll have up top, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it, but I think it's worth noting on here, and I think that you should take full advantage of all those function buttons. Now another one that I want to mention is the image app, the Panasonic image app that you can use on your mobile device to control the GH5, and it's a fantastic app, and you have so much control, like that focus lock. If you're doing a talking head of yourself, you can connect your image app to the GH5, and then you just hit this, boop, and you're locked on and you're ready to roll. So it's just another thing about the GH5 that you should be taking full advantage of. Now there's a ton of other awesome features of the GH5 that I didn't mention in this video, but might be good for a future video. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss those future videos. And again, make sure you comment your favorite feature of the GH5 down below so that we can get a conversation started. Make sure you stick around and check out one of these videos that's popping up right here. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will catch you in the next video.